This is mainly Broncos. I am Cameron Parker, a team with a franchise quarterback. The Atlanta Falcons, on the other hand, do not.
Saddle up your horses.
Pitter patter! Let's get at her. It is another season of Broncos football. It is another season of Broncos football right here over on MHRT Network and the Mainly Broncos YouTube channel. So thank you guys for hopping in with us. Make sure you follow both Brandon, Jordan, and myself over there on all platforms. We are also going live on their platforms as well. So we are going live at Jordan T. Lopez, at Brandon Miller PO, and myself at Cameron Parker PO. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I will say, first and foremost, that I think it's very important that we hit that like and subscribe button, for the show. So as you see down there on the bottom, make sure you hit the like and subscribe, for the show, for the MHRT Network page, as well as the Mainly Broncos YouTube page. And also, we are doing Super Chats. So please feel free to give whatever it is that you guys feel is in your best heart's content as far as the Super Chat. We aren't going to be pressuring you. We aren't going to be asking for a specific amount of money, that sort of thing. This isn't like a share-a-thon kind of thing, if you will, when it comes to that. You guys feel what you guys feel is your heart's content on a Super Chat. With further ado, as I said, the gents of the show. At Jordan T. Lopez is Jordan Lopez. And down there on the bottom is Brandon Miller. Over there at Brandon Miller PO. How's everybody doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. It was refreshing to see the Broncos on my TV screen for the first time in what seems like a while. So nice to see them on my screen. Nice to see them perform the way they did. And that uniform combo, I like a lot.
I think you're one of the only people. All I see is hate for that uniform combo. I don't have really thoughts one way or the other. All I know is we're back and we're undefeated, and we're just going to stay undefeated for the rest of the season. We're going all the way to the Super Bowl, boys. But no, I'm doing great. Excited to see any form of Broncos football in any shape with any players back on the television. Love to see that. You got a victory out of it. The Falcons looked bad, but we looked good. So you know what? Got everything that you could ask for.
It is very interesting because when you do look at the difference of roster, it is stark, the difference in roster, and it's one where you see everything as far as, look, I'm happy that Kyle Pitts got paid. I'm happy that Bijan Robinson got paid, but you look at it and it's like you also start to kind of feel bad a little bit. When you kind of see everything that's all around, and obviously
Drake
Michael
London too, man. Drake London's a good football player.
And Michael Penix didn't even play. It was all Tua. And I was kind of excited, right? Like I was actually excited to see what is the Stefanski offense, and I know it's preseason, but what was that going to look like? What was that actually going to look like? So I was really excited to get a nice little glimpse of it. And obviously, again, like I said, I know it's preseason. That didn't end up happening. So, so that was quite a beatdown. And I guess to kind of lead things off in a way, the reason why it's titled, right, the Broncos made a preseason statement was because that is about as good of a start as you can ask for a Broncos team who's, left a bad taste in their mouth, if you will, with that AFC Championship game in the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, it's preseason. I'm not going to have too many
Oh.
high expectations for what I'm expecting to see, but I did like specifically what we saw from the offense as vanilla as it is, as it's going to be in the preseason. You got a lot of nice play, specifically from whom I would consider to be the front runner in the backup quarterback battle, which would be Jarrett Stidham. I know there was a lot of talk going into this, is like, oh, Sam Ellinger's had like a good camp, and he's kind of outplayed Stidham in some aspects in some practices. But to me, and I know obviously they were playing with definitely different players and different caliber of players by the time that Sam got in the game. But to me, Jarrett Stidham was dealing early, and you'd love to see it. Portland Sutton is still a dog. Love to see that. And I think, to me, it was pretty clear who that quarterback should be, even though he didn't necessarily make himself a lot of fans the last time we saw him on the field.
Yeah, I mean, just kicking off the Davis Webb play calling era. I know, again, just preseason, but the offense was on a roll to start the game, and everything just looked so smooth from a play calling standpoint. Whether it's getting the plays in super early to everyone executing the details. I mean, everything just seems so sharp. And again, that's without Bo, without Waddle, without some of our key starters being out there. Even not having our starting center out there, which again, I think we're on like our fifth starting center right now, our fifth stringer.
Gavin
But
Ortega, and I think even our like signing also got injured as well.
yeah, so I mean, if, with all that being into consideration, everything looked more than smooth on that end. Sean Payton even talked about it and said that everything was great on that end, and it sure looked like it on TV. So everything looked great, and it does get me even more excited to see Bo in the regular season
Yeah.
with Davis Webb in a real game setting, and how his offense is going to look, especially with what we heard this week in practice. But man, can't wait.
So let's kind of go down the tiers, if you will, like the tiers of excitement. Like what kind of got us most excited, and for people that are in the chat, feel free to kind of drop in some of the takeaways that you guys yourself had. We're going to start first, obviously, with the low-hanging fruit of the offense. So we're going to start with that one. And then we'll work our way into the defensive side of things and talk about the defense and what really excited us there. So, yeah, feel free to chime in. You guys can either comment over there through the Manly Broncos YouTube stream or as well as the MHRT Network YouTube stream. So thank you guys again for hopping in with us. And, again, make sure before we really get balls deep, if you will, into this conversation and this stream, hit that like and subscribe button as you see down there on the bottom. So like I said, let's kind of go through this in a little bit of some tiers, if you will, of kind of like what kind of got us excited the most. And Brandon, I'll kind of tee it up for you in a sense because, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it feels like there might not have been a more offensive, positive outlook after that game than what we saw from Evan Ingram.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of tiers am I working with here? We working with like meme tiers, or we just going straight numbers? Like
No, just kind of just like, kind of like how you rank them. Like Evan Ingram was like number one, or Stidham was number one, or
I'd love some meme tiers, but we don't have those ready.
Yeah.
Trying to come up with something on the fly, I got nothing. No, to me, I do think Evan Ingram played pretty well, especially like that shot out of his own end zone that City hit him with. That was a good play. I do think that, unfortunately, that's kind of not unfortunately, but it didn't. I wouldn't say that I am yet to be excited about what that's going to look like with Evan Ingram, because we've seen him make these kinds of plays before. I love seeing it. I love to see that.
But relative to the preseason,
a massive step. And yeah, I mean, in the preseason, like, it's great to see that. with Evan Ingram, I'm particularly more like watching what he does really all preseason games that he's playing in, because he's going to be, and by all intents and purposes, like if we have any production from the tight end room, it's going to be because of Evan Ingram. I liked what I saw from him. I definitely thought he made some good plays, but I've seen him make good plays in the past. And I think I would say whatever tier is temper my expectations, that's the tier that I'm in. But I'm excited to see him more, because I think that I want to see what Davis Webb uses him for and how he uses him, because I do think the potential is there. But you've seen him make be kind of hot and cold in the past, where he's made these good plays and then he's kind of fallen off a little bit. So I'd love to see the great plays from him, but I want to see that continue. But definitely excited to see, how that looks for the rest of the season, preseason, and how he's used by Davis Webb. So I would say maybe this was just me, and I'm a little bit too much of a skeptic, but I would put him maybe in like tier 2. I mean, it's the preseason, 2 or 3. It's the preseason. I'm not going to expect anything crazy. I'm just like, man, why can't you do that more regularly? Like that's my only gripe against him. But I think he played well for what we asked him to do in, again, a preseason game. But I'm going to keep my eye on him because he's going to be.
Jordan,
Yeah, for me, the tier 1 was Jonah Coleman, which looked absolutely electric in what he was doing on the field, whether it was bouncing off of tackles, whether it was, hitting the right holes. It was really refreshing to see Jonah Coleman out there. And, we've been hearing all the training camp hype, but to actually see it now on the preseason field. And again, I know it's preseason, but, it's our first time us seeing, the rookies and stuff. And Jonah Coleman looked apart.
Dude, could not agree more. Jonah Coleman absolutely in that tier 1 hype for me. I'm also going to put my boy Cortland Sutton in that same tier, man. Cortland Sutton just finds a way to get it done. And I know, Jordan, you're not necessarily his biggest fan. And I do think that, the time is coming for Cortland Sutton. I think there's a pretty obvious heir apparent situation going on right now with Pat Bryant, but, he's still got it, man. He just made 2 ridiculously great catches. That, one-armed, other arm is obviously involved in a pass interference that wasn't called catch. That was just vintage Cortland Sutton, and I'm so hyped, dude. I am so hyped to see that in this offense that gets him open, hopefully more, because we have some more speed and a legitimate wide receiver 1 who should take more of the defense's attention.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think Sutton might have a better year. It might not look like it numbers wise, but he may have a better year just because he may be getting a lot more space to operate with now with Waddle as his counterpart. So I do agree with that 100%.
I'm scared to say this in this group of people because you're in these leagues with me, but I'm looking at Cortland Sutton in fantasy, man.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I thought that, shout out again Anthony Rodriguez and and him hopping in with us. But that's why I think I kind of liked where he was going, in a sense. It's not a knock on our offense, but it goes to show you that there's probably only a few people you want to really invest in when it comes to, the fantasy football side of things, just because it's going to be so well, diverse, if you will, in terms of that offense.
Yeah. And, I mean, Pat Bryant, too, on the other end, he only had that 1 catch. But
yeah, it was
pretty nice.
Yeah.
Always getting added when it comes to Pat Bryant stuff. It's just...
I will take probably some slack for that, just kind of putting you in the...
Man.
I'm not gonna beat a dead horse, Jordan, but I just wanted to shout him out because that was a good rep.
It was a really
good rep.
It was a good rep.
It was. I just love how whenever Pat Bryant is mentioned, I do get tagged in it, and it's pretty awesome. Kind of like that.
Well, I will say what's really funny of you not liking Pat Bryant, if you will, or you need to see more, if you will, or your expectations are incredibly high for Pat Bryant. But I think what's kind of funny to me is he's from South Florida. He's from Florida, and so you're And so your expectations for something, because like knowing how much you do love those South Florida boys, it was just one that kind of piece the two together. You would have loved Pat Bryant, and if you will, and you just need to see a lot more. I will say, kind of to preface before we go talk about Cortland Sutton and just some of the offensive. The reason why I mentioned Evan Ingram is just relative to what we saw in the game, right? Because I think for what we saw in the game should give you more excitement, right? Like, because we had the Cardinals game, right? Which, ironically, that was Davis Webb's first calling of plays last year, when the Broncos were at home, right? But I will say, like, that should give a lot of Bronco fans, I think, a lot of excitement, because we were seeing some things from Evan Ingram that either we needed improvement on, or that that we were seeing some certain design and some certain wrinkle. For as good as Evan Ingram is and athletic as he is, we saw some wrinkles of like, oh, okay, that might be vanilla, but that was a really exciting thing to really kind of throw in there, and really show that. And obviously, I'm talking specifically to the Evan Ingram seam route. Like,
I love seeing him in the middle of the field.
Yeah, and so like seeing that seam route on something like that, I thought was very fun and very fascinating to see. And then obviously on top of that there's been a lot of talk about him, depends on who you talk to, about him having most of the wide receiver snaps or half the wide receiver snaps in terms of training camp. And we go out there in preseason and we see him lined in line. And he is actually handling his own quite well with some Atlanta starters, maybe not the best starters in the world, but starters nonetheless for the Atlanta Falcons, and then really holding his own. And I think that should give some optimism for going into this Packers game and just kind of just going from there. But that was really nice to see.
Maybe I was too hard on him. I did like that seam route, but I just got to see him do it more, man. I got to see him do it more. I liked seeing him use the middle of the field. That was cool. Just keep it up.
There was some player that got injured in the Texans and Raiders game. I didn't get a chance to see who. I have it on in the background. Yeah, you never know. Speaking of fantasy football, this might actually be the year. Grant, I think Bo has always been a sneaky fantasy football play anyway, but he might be in that territory of one of those fantasy football tiers. So, Brandon,
unfortunately,
Jordan,
every single league that I am in has at least one Broncos fan and probably more.
Yeah,
and so it's just there's no way, man.
He's
going around 4, and I'm not doing that.
Yeah, when you're in a few leagues, like Brandon, myself, and Jordan are in a fantasy league together, and there might be some time where we will see a Broncos player either taken by myself, Jordan, or Brandon, maybe a little earlier than expected. And I think the easiest prediction between the three of us is that Jalen Waddle is going to be going over to the guy over here on the top on the top right about as quick as a heck. The moment that something happens, he's gonna take Jalen Waddle. So speaking,
talking
yeah,
real quick, sticking with the tier analogy. As usual, there was one player who had you jumping from tier 1 to tier 5, or whatever. I guess you could go DEFCON 5 to DEFCON 1 if you're looking at it in the other direction. Like only he can. Jaleel McLaughlin, ladies and gentlemen. Jaleel McLaughlin has an amazing couple runs, gets some good chunk yardage, catches that touchdown, even though he's wide open, makes some good plays. It's like, man, I could see you're around. Like you could be a decent depth back on this team, and then you fumble it. I'm just okay.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, in continuing this theme of running back, I think it would be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the other things we were excited about there. Obviously, I know the Jonah Coleman thing kind of got teased, if you will, and spoken there by you, Jordan. But I actually I know statistically it didn't look the best statistically, but it's kind of a hot take, I guess, depending on who you talk to within Broncos Twitter. I did not mind R.J. Harvey's first preseason game. I just think where you do see it is just when you see what you saw from Jonah Coleman, I can understand why people have that kind of expectation because it was a little bit more impressive than R.J. Harvey. But where I was kind of coming with is like if I'm seeing decisiveness in terms of on his runs and hitting the holes and stuff like that and showing vision, that's really all I kind of cared about. And there were 3 runs in a row where it was an opportunity where we didn't get a chance to see all of that, if you will, last year, and sort of see a little bit more progress when it came to that, I thought was really nice. Now, it gets to Jonah Coleman, and that, between probably that and Evan Ingram, there might not have been, for myself, a more exciting thing to see there when it came to that offensive side of the ball. Because Jonah Coleman looked absolutely fantastic. Between him being like a bowling ball, frankly, probably giving a lot of Bronco fans a tear kind of running down their eye for seeing what the rookie year of Javonte Williams and everything that I gave them there, and then obviously too for what we saw with C.J. Anderson in the Super Bowl 50 era, and stuff like that. So I just think that when you factor that, there is just a lot of excitement there, and I think that if there was anything between two of them, and I know it's only one preseason game, it's abundantly clear the Broncos need to do the right thing and do 3 running backs, and only 3 running backs this year on the roster, Brandon.
Yeah, Javonte Williams, that was my first thought that I had as I was watching Jonah Coleman. Oh, it just feels like we were robbed, man. I'm so upset about that injury. I mean, I love Jonah Coleman, and I'm super excited for what he's going to do. I did think R.J. Harvey looked better. I think he was a little bit better.
Yeah,
but I do think that just watching him and Jonah Coleman back-to-back were kind of just different players. They were just on different levels to me. And I'm so excited about that. But, yeah, Javonte, man, what could have been. He's going to do so well in Dallas again. He had a great year last year, and I'm sad that he's not in orange and blue still because he had those injuries that just kind of derailed his time in Denver, and now he's picking it back up with the Cowboys. And so good for him. But, man, I wish he was able to be the back for the Broncos that we saw in him his rookie year. And that's kind of the vibe I got from Jonah Coleman, and I'm loving it. But, yeah, Jonah Coleman, to me, was the biggest player I was most excited to watch in this game. I think it definitely played out that way. I love how you hear Sean Payton later on say, like, yep, we saw everything we needed from him, and we're not going to really play him that much more. Yeah. And then over in Arizona, you have top 5 drafted, 10 drafted. I don't remember exactly where they took Jeremiah Love, but a top drafted first round running back that they give 14 carries to, and he gets injured because they needed to give 14 carries in the preseason. Like, okay, cool.
So, and what about you, Jordan? Obviously, I know you both can pull up comments too, but like the Rodney asks about pass blocker. That's where I thought it was exciting between Harvey and Coleman, because it was like, you actually now have 3 quality backs who obviously some of them are some of the things that they can work on, but all 3 of them, for all intents and purposes, are relatively solid blockers and pass blockers. And Coleman specifically, we saw a fair amount of that in the preseason game, that I think is another reason why it should give a lot of people a chance for some excitement.
Yes, and I mean, as we have seen actually in week 1 of the preseason, protecting as a running back is a premium, because if you did not see, a certain someone in New York got absolutely killed against the Vikings because a certain running back did not pick up a blitz. So learning how to pass pro as a running back and pick up blitzes and protection wise is a huge deal. And I believe that RJ Harvey has gotten better at it, especially with a year now under his belt in the NFL. J.K. Dobbins obviously a veteran, so if he needs to be put in that situation, he will. And I think Jonah Coleman, even as a rookie, I think he does have the traits, and I think he even has the film from college that he can do it. So, in that
He
aspect,
put
I think
Sonny
Broncos are well.
Styles in the dirt.
Yes, that is true.
What? Yeah. What more do you need to see
Yeah, and
when it
Sony
comes to
Styles is
Sonny?
going to be a great NFL player too. So, but I do believe that this trio of running backs is going to be pretty good, and I would agree that RJ Harvey didn't have a bad day against the Falcons. I actually think he's probably getting a little bit more slack than I'd like from the fan base. I know everyone loves Jonah Coleman, I mean myself
Right.
included,
Yeah.
but RJ Harvey did have a pretty good rookie season, and I think that may be just
In
being
that nice
a little bit
preseason, if you
underrated.
will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Tyron Tracy, man, that was a cut worthy whiff on that block.
I mean, oof.
Yeah.
Anyway, um, sleeper guy that I feel like isn't talked about quite enough, Joseph Manjack.
I mean,
The
speaking of New
default,
York,
default there.
like kind of like bring up Wayne Corbett when you see someone who's, who's got nothing but bare hands, right? And
Yeah.
also, I will say, Joseph Manjack doesn't sound like a wide receiver name. So, like, if Manjack adds like about 40 more pounds, I think he's the perfect like tight end name. Or he's the or he like he gains like maybe 30 more pounds and he adds just a ton of muscle and then he turns himself into a fullback. I could see like Joseph Manjack being the name of a fullback. It just, I guess the name test, as everybody likes to do when it comes to scouting. Joseph Manjack doesn't necessarily pass the name test, but nonetheless, I thought he played his butt off. I agree in that preseason game.
I mean, he's playing his way onto a practice squad role that I've never seen before. I mean,
Really,
he caught. I mean, I believe he's probably a practice squad candidate, like for sure. I mean,
but that you used to say that you never seen before. That's that we've seen
I
the likes
mean,
of Sunshine. We've seen the likes of
the
uh,
amount of hype that I saw Manjack get just from a few plays was unbelievable. And seeing the sidelines erupt when he caught three consecutive passes for a good chunk, it was telling in my opinion.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Hey man, I just thought he played nice. I wasn't trying to gas him up that much. No,
Hey, maybe Michael Bandy doesn't get that practice squad, and maybe it's Manjack. You never know.
I could be.
Could be. Speaking of other wide receivers, I mean, really the one of the few who looked really underwhelming was Dane Key, but all the other ones, it was just like, I mean, they're Cameron Ross. I mean, we all know the people named Cameron, are legends anyway. But it was just, but you get the 87 number, right?
Yeah.
And I was curious. I do think it's still relatively vanilla, but I will say I got excited to see that end around, handoff to Cameron Ross that he nearly housed for about 30 yards or something like that, 35 yards. So that was kind of nice because you got a chance to see a little bit of his explosiveness, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this because like it's one of the things that I think I'm okay having. I'll just say a six wide receiver if they didn't want to have a little Jordan Humphrey and they wanted their six wide receiver to be someone like a Manjack or even a Colby Katzis, who was another player who I thought did relatively nice. But my idea is I would love to have the best kickoff return team possible in terms of some of those returners. Like we'll have Mims back there, and we all know that he's an All Pro for a reason. But if you put a guy down there like a Colby Katzis or maybe even a Cameron Ross, why not have some explosiveness on both sides of the field? Specifically, too, knowing the fact that on those new kickoff rules, you know, one or the other will have equal opportunity to get the ball.
Well, what I'll say about Cameron Ross and what I saw, and let me preface this by saying I do not want him gone, but the way things are not trending, but the talks and the concerns are real. If Marvin Mims does leave next year, I Cameron Ross screams Marvin Mims replacement, just in my opinion.
Brandon?
Yeah, I can see that. I do think Mims is a little twitchier, but
Yeah.
I could see that happening.
Now, since we're on the topic of wide receiver, I want to ask a question because we did talk about Sutton, right? And we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Cortland Sutton a little bit more. I know it was preseason, but that might have been one of the more impressive catches I have ever seen from Cortland. And I gotta say, it as much as as much as he did struggle with his case of the dropsies in the regular season, even then there were still moments where he would have a 50-50 ball, and it turned more so into a 50-50 ball versus we all know with Sutton an 80-20 ball, in that 2025 season. So to see that in a preseason game, I almost felt like it was intentional. And agree, because you finally got a chance to see something that he was kind of very inconsistent with in 25. So you got a chance to see that, in a preseason game. So feel bad for the corner for the Falcons who had to get posterized on preseason, but for us Bronco fans, that was a beautiful sight to see.
Yeah, man, I think you gotta shut him down for the rest of the season. You can't let anything happen to Court. But dude, this guy and Jalen Waddle, I'm hyped.
Yeah. So, and I want to preface this for for all three of us to discuss, because it kind of sparked something like a nice little debate that I dropped in our PO chat. I think it was this week. It feels like to me a lot of people are, dubbing Jalen Waddle as wide receiver one, right? Or sometimes it's just wide receiver one and then wide receiver two when it comes to Cortland Sutton, right? Are we underselling the idea? Like, is there actually a world where we won't see Jalen Waddle obviously be, a 100 catch kind of guy? He'll be a focal point due to probably the amount of motion that they use. But do we actually see a little bit more balance across the board when it comes to Jalen Waddle and Cortland Sutton, and where it may not be at that level in terms of Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, but will we see a 1A, 1B situation?
I think we will, maybe for a different reason. I think we will at least at the beginning of the year, because Court and Bo already have that mind meld going on, right? And you got to build that up with Jalen Waddle. And I have no doubt they've been working on that as much as they can. But I do think you will see pretty similar usage in targets, at least at the beginning of the year. And then I do think it could shift more to Waddle. And I do think Waddle is going to end up being kind of I hesitate to say de facto, but even if it's 1A, 1B, he's the 1A. And if it goes even further than that, I would say I think Jalen Waddle is going to be the one. But I think you will see a pretty even split, at least initially, while they're just kind of trying to build up that chemistry. Portland Sutton's the closest thing to security.
Yeah. It sounded like you were getting there underwater a little bit there, Brandon, at the very end.
I don't know.
Yeah.
My connection's been kind of funky.
Yeah. But go ahead, Jordan.
I would say Jalen Waddle for me is the clear wide receiver one. I know Cortland Sutton has his fair share of days of being the wide receiver one, but just the inconsistencies for me, throughout the season, at least for last year, there will be games that he will show up and have 10 yards, 20 yards, and then the next game he'll have his 50 to 60. I think Waddle is going to be a bit more consistent in terms of that. But in terms of it being more balanced, it is just because of how the offense is going to be designed and how Bo likes to spread the ball out. But whenever we do need a play and we need someone to rely on, I do think Waddle will be that first option. I know Court and Bo have this great connection, and I'm not, naive to that, but I think Waddle's ability and traits and stuff like that just separates himself as just being the guy. Like how Brandon said, he's just the one. But if it is a 1A, 1B type situation, which it 100% can be, I think Waddle is the 1A in that scenario.
Yeah. Who else on the offensive side of the ball? And for people that are in the chat, obviously Joseph Manjack, obviously for Rodney mentions Oglo's Manjack. Anybody else on the offensive side of the ball?
Running back one, Adam Prentice. That's all. That's it.
But yeah, anybody else that just kind of stood out to you?
Offensively, I think we hit on everybody.
I was gonna say Cody Schrader. The amount of work he got was a little interesting to me. Just in a, are they trying to see?
They trying to
more
advertise
from
him,
and
or
just maybe try to advertise him, or even see like, hey, are you someone that we should keep around or maybe stick on the practice squad? I definitely don't think he's gonna go any further than the practice squad because it didn't honestly look that good. But I was just a little surprised by how much work he got.
Well, I will say this. If there is ever an opportunity, if there is ever a case where they wanted to go to 4 running backs, it was evident watching that game. It should not be Tyler Bidet, and Julian McLaughlin. It needs to be Cody Schrader.
Even then, I'd see who else is available, to be honest with you.
But knowing Sean, he would probably be leaning on a guy like a Cody Schrader. What do you say, Jordan?
Wasn't in that article that Sean did with I'm forgetting the writer's name, Seth Wickersham, that wasn't Tyler Bidet the one that called off the punt?
He was.
I think that goes a long way in terms of
Just-
trust
it might.
and stuff like that. So if there is a fourth running back, I would think Tyler Bidet would be over Jaleel at that point.
There is a difference between should and will happen.
Yeah.
And I think the should is it should be Cody Schrader, but based on you guys alluding to it, what will happen seems like it would be Tyler Bidet.
Kind
Honestly, I thought Bidet
Humphrey
was
situation.
Yeah.
I thought Bidet was even a little bit better than Cody Schrader. The only reason I brought Cody Schrader up is he just got so many touches. I was a little surprised.
Yeah.
But he averaged 2.4 yards per carry, and that was because he had one run for 14 yards. It was not good, man. Bidet was better, and that's not saying that much.
Before we leave, we would be remiss if we did not talk about the offensive line. That was a really impressive look by the offensive line in preseason. Obviously, again, the difference between the difference between the Broncos roster and then the Falcons roster is really stark, and it's very different. But it was really nice to get a chance to see, the offensive line really go to work, and it seemed like they were really leaning hard into the idea of Ben Powers at left guard. And I think that we need to be called into remembrance, Brandon, that when Ben Powers is healthy and when he is fully healthy, he is a really good guard in the NFL. And so as much as he took a pay cut this year, it might be a bit of a weird world where you see a player take a pay cut and then, sign a newer deal in that, in the off season.
I agree. I do think it's it's a little easy to overlook how good Ben Powers is because of how good Quinn Miners is. Um, but Ben Powers is a very good starting guard in the NFL. I do think that him being healthy is going to make a big difference as well in the running game, and I hope he can stay healthy for the full season. Um, One thing I'll mention on the line is it was nice to see Calvin Throckmorton get some experience and snaps at center
Yeah,
because
and he
still
did,
not sure entirely what's happening with Wattenberg and Forsyth.
and he
And
did
hopefully
solid.
that sorts it out sooner rather than later. But yeah, he looked pretty decent. He played. I mean, he played. I think he played that even in uh, with the Saints, and then even a little bit in college at Oregon. I think he was at Oregon. I believe he played a little bit of center, so he has that experience, and it was nice to see that he's at least serviceable.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows I'm I'm not a big critic on the offensive line, but I've had my fair share of doubts, and it's not mainly doubts because they're not talented. It's more so the everyone thinks that they are the, best line of all time. And what I wanted to see coming into this year was them being more dominant in the running game and not just, you know, average to good. I want them to be dominant. And I saw that a little bit, running over guys and really going after it. I hope that carries into the regular season. But for me, with this offensive line, it's really more so just being dominant. I do believe it's a good offensive line. I just wanted to live up to the bill and be a great to dominant offensive line.
One thing I'm curious to see is, I know I talked about specifically last year that I didn't think that the run blocking was that good,
Right.
and I'll stick by that. But I do wonder if the strength of the run blocking in this offensive line is between the tackles, and that's coincidentally also what RJ Harvey is the worst at. So it kind of could have been like a pretty much the worst case scenario where you have an offensive line that's very good at blocking for up the middle and just between the tackle runs, and you can't really do it as much because RJ Harvey, and he's gotten better, but that's definitely the weak spot in his game, and
Hmm.
I do wonder if that played a role. And so seeing what Jonah Coleman did, I'm more excited for the run blocking, and I'm curious to see if it does look like they took a big step, if it's how much of that is like, well, they did take a step, and I'm excited about that, but also there's a better mesh skill wise between the line and who they're blocking for.
Yeah. Well, and I think that it's to a certain element. Obviously, we were seeing it with a certain stat that's been circulating with a certain quarterback of the Denver Broncos in terms of total offense, and now people want to talk about how quarterbacks, with the sacks, and everything is not a quarterback stat, or it is a quarterback stat kind of thing. I do think at times an offensive line's run blocking is very much a tribute to also the running back's vision. If the running back has terrible vision, which, and I do think I'm relatively high on Harvey still at times, but I'm also been willing to admit that his vision is not the best, right? And so I think that maybe at times the run blocking was down due to the fact that the vision was a little bit poor at times with RJ.
Doesn't matter how big the hole is if you can't see it.
Yeah. So, all right. So some people that are commenting in, it looks like Rodney mentioned Cage Casey looked solid. He did have a few really solid reps there. And Matt Parrott was probably one of the few people. It was very noticeable that he was struggling. Even on field goal blocks, it looked like he was struggling. He was getting his butt chewed out in preseason from Sean Payton. Which, oh, by the way, that might be the quickest cut and release when it comes to long snapper
Yeah.
with Basso. and Fabroni at long snapper. So obviously, now moving forward to the linebacker side of things, and now this is also going to go kind of hand in hand with some of the news that happened today, and we'll be talking about a move that we all kind of expected to happen. Actually, two moves, if you will, that kind of expected to happen. Expected to happen from the standpoint of one of the players maybe being cut, released, maybe right at cut day. But due to a certain situation and due to already preseason one, some of these players playing quite well, they decided to cut their losses on an injury settlement and then signed safety off the street. And so the Broncos made a decision to cut Lavelle Bailey in favor of signing Taylor Rapp to that safety room. There's a lot to unpack with it because if you got to talk about one with the other in terms of both position groups. But let's just start with that linebacking core because you want to talk about a room that might have impressed us all. And when you probably think of the entirety of the preseason, there might not have been a more impressive position group probably that impressed us the most after the two starters. Then Karene Reed, Torian York, and the Daredevil himself, Red Murdoch. We'll send it off to you, Jordan. But for Red Murdoch and Torian York and Karene Reed, that's a really solid room. So you feel bad for Lavelle Bailey, but it's also one where it's just an unfortunate situation. But also a fortunate one because it seems like maybe, and I also hate this time of year because of what I'm about to say is going to get criticized probably. The depth might not be as bad as people think. Question mark.
Listen. First of all, Red Murdoch looks like an NFL linebacker. That's first and foremost. Second of all, Torian York, I know I have even questioned his size to play linebacker. And, he's not your prototypical linebacker size. But he was quite impressive, I would say. And then Karene Reed had everyone talks about the pick six from Jade Barron. Well, the reason why that happened was of Reed's tip, and it landed into Jade Barron's hand. So those three linebackers, like how Cam said, very, very much impressed throughout that game. And we've heard the talks of Red Murdoch in training camp and how he looks apart. How Sean Payne said that about Jonah Coleman. Well, it looks like that to be the way with Red Murdoch on the defensive side. As I think even Vance Joseph this week said that Red Murdoch has the capability of calling the defense, which is a very, very high praise as a rook that hasn't even made the team yet in theory. So that's huge praise. And like Cam said, the linebacker depth now looks a lot more reassuring than it did before the game.
Yeah, I think the one word that sticks out to me when I watch Red Murdoch is cerebral, because he just knows exactly where he needs to be at all times, and it's just so awesome to see from a rookie linebacker. He's going to be, I think, one of my favorite players on this defense already. Like he's also so violent. He didn't even do a ton of that in that game, but just you hear the reports about him in camp too, and obviously the amount of I think he set the record for at the FBS level for those tackles for a loss, I think, which is just absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I'm so hyped about Red Murdoch, and Torian York looked better than I expected him to as well. I think
he played
linebackers,
bigger.
Preseason game, but linebackers look pretty good. Well,
and I think that we'll be talking about stuff within that secondary, of course, but for as much as Jade Barron should be getting some praise for his explosiveness immediately after, getting that ball and taking that 22 miles an hour for a pick six. That's really impressive. I mean, it goes to show you his athleticism for, for kind of seeing that. But for as much as he gets praised there, Corene Reed set it all up, within that play. So, I mean, and I think that the way I would say this when it comes to Corene Reed, it's going to sound terrible between the two of them. LaVelle Bailey walked so that Corene Reed can run, if you will. I mean, Bailey had a great first season with the Broncos. He had the pick six in preseason. I think it was against the Cardinals, if I'm not mistaken. It was the same year that Keydron Smith went off. And he was forcing fumbles left and right. And he had that, intercept. Or no, maybe it was the 49ers. But he had the interception, right? And really showed out and really played well. But then that's when the injuries really kind of derailed him. And then that's when the Broncos ended up getting Corene Reed. And Reed really showed up in that year, and then he's showing out this last year, and then now he's showing out again, at least in this preseason. So it's ones where is he just a preseason type of player? Is he a game player, or is it one that he's earned his keep, and he at this point now he's kind of earned his keep, and he's going to be one of those players that they'll probably lean on. So it's going to be an interesting one. So I'm very curious about that linebacker room.
Well, in terms of the linebackers room, I mean, how many are they going to keep?
I think it's going to end up being predicated, I assume, Brandon, on the health of those two.
I think you probably need to keep it. You got to keep some
at least
depth
4
there, unfortunately, because of who you have up front and just age. You got to have probably 4 or 5.
So we got the obvious with Singleton and Stranad, and then I think we can all agree that Red Murdoch is a lock.
Oh, easily.
And then
Corene Reed might have been a lock from that. The question is just, do you
Cameron Reed makes it 4, and then Terran York
is
Terran York will make it 5.
Do you guys remember how many linebackers they kept last year?
I can search that up.
I'm trying to remember. I couldn't remember if it was 5 or if it was 4.
Well, especially
but with the injuries, I think it would be relatively smart to maybe keep 5.
The first initial 53-man roster that was released had 4 with Greenlaw, Reed, Singleton, and Stranad.
And this is looking more and more, to Landon's point, it's looking more and more why the Broncos did not make the full-time switch for Jonah at inside linebacker. For as much as we were reading between the lines of that linebacker room, I think we can kind of put to bed why. And it's just because of the plays of Corene Reed, Torian York, and Red Murdoch.
Yep, they had 24 on the offense and then 26 on the defense.
So how many did you say, Jordan? Sorry to cut you off there.
For the linebackers?
Yeah.
4.
So they did have 4.
So then you would have to risk the option of putting York on the practice squad and hoping he does not get picked up, which in my opinion, I think with those type of players at that position, I don't think those guys move around as much because they already know the playbook on the defense. If they go to another team, they're going to have to adapt, and not only to the locker room, but to the new playbook, the new style. So I think the Broncos should get away with having York on the practice squad if they go the route and go 4.
It still falls on the player's choice, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think the players have a big say in it as well.
Yeah. Brandon?
Yeah, I do think that what you talked about with the decision to not continue the move of Jonah Ellis to inside linebacker, I always thought it was because Jonah Ellis is just so good on the edge.
That too.
You don't really want to have to make him make that switch, but it's nice to see that it also was because they liked the depth that they had at linebacker, because outside of the depth at safety, which thank goodness we signed Taylor Rapp, linebacker was probably my biggest fear that I had on this roster in terms of like what happens if one of the upfront guys goes down. And I think it probably is back to maybe being safety now. Although we've nicely added some additional depth there. But yeah, I do think that was nice to see some signs of life from the linebacker.
Yeah, to Paul's point, and for as much as we are praising Corene Reed, and Red Murdoch and Torian York, it does kind of beg the question if you're going to be relying on a guy like a Corene Reed or a Red Murdoch as much as you want to see those reps. Maybe you do kind of go what you did with Taylor Rapp at safety, and you get a street free agent, if you will. For that third linebacker. But I will say at this particular point, and knowing what they've talked about him, it's just in general in terms of Red Murdoch, it seems like they aren't going to be adding anyone in terms of the linebacker room.
Yeah.
So you already mentioned it. Landon obviously first initially teased it when it came to Jonah Ellis. Holy crap. Like, I think I said it on 5280, but like, he might be the best pass rusher on the roster at disengaging off a tackle and immediately engaging on a quarterback or the ball carrier, if you will. He might be the best on the team at that. And I know that Benito gets a lot of hype, and rightfully so. And Jonathan Cooper, if he's out there this year, has clearly shown a lot of improvement since his rookie year when they traded Vaughn and everything. But I mean, good night, man. Like when you have Jonah Ellis playing as well as he did in that preseason game, and then Q Robinson picking up where he left off.
Yeah,
I mean. Is it too early to ask the question of who had the best depth between 2015 and 2026 in terms of the edge room?
It's hard to say that just because the 2020 or the 2015 roster had literal Hall of Famers. But it's looking real nice.
Yeah, I mean, Jonah Ellis's closing speed is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, it is insane. Whether Jonathan Cooper is on the field or not, I do expect Jonah Ellis to be opposite of Nick Benito at this point. He is playing his way into starting. And listen, I understand how great Jonathan Cooper is. I really do. I mean, the fact that Cooper and Benito are already in the first preseason game, already racing to the quarterback, like if their lives depended on it, and got there within a second and was making Tua uncomfortable within the first couple plays of the game was outrageous. But with that being said, Jonah Ellis is that good. He really is. And I think his name is going to be a lot more popular within the national media after the year he has this season.
If they're not getting phone calls about him after preseason or during preseason.
And guess what? If they are getting phone calls, I think you'd hang it up.
Yeah, dude, I'm so hyped for Jonah Ellis, man. He's got to have, I think, a pretty special year. Like, I hope that they are able to get
special.
More.
Define special relative to a player
as
like
a rotational pass rusher, more than 5 sacks.
Okay, like 8,
7, somewhere in there. As a rotational pass rusher, to me, that's special.
I mean, Vaughn, who obviously ended up not signing here, but Vaughn had less than 50% snaps and still had 8.5 sacks, almost 9 sacks. So, I mean, to put that into perspective for what you were saying there, Brandon.
Yeah. That's not even, we didn't even really see much of Q Robinson, but he
looked good.
He looked pretty nice in training camp. So
Who would
I
have
will
thought that a player?
Again, where's the tree?
I mean, I would. Who would have thought that a player that was praised, and I don't even think praise is the right word because he was just out.
Gushed.
I mean, he was in love. Yeah, gushed. I mean, Nick Saban was literally gushing over Q Robinson. Who would have thought that player would have been good?
Right. I think the thing that's probably the most surprising to me with Q is when he talked about him also through, and maybe mostly through, the special teams lens.
Yes.
What we're seeing on this one ain't the special teams lens, when it comes to Q. So it's because, like, I'll be the first to tell you, I thought that because he was so athletic, right? I thought he was so athletic, you might actually see him, not Jonah, being flipped between the off-ball linebacker and, stuff like that, and, really becoming like that backup linebacker at times. And maybe they throw in a few spots like that for him in terms of, on the defense, in terms of like just a pure chaotic NASCAR package and whatever, but he has looked really good. And I know that it's so early to ask that question about 2026 and even 2025 and 2015, but it was just the trend this is going, the depth of 2026, and when it comes to Q Robinson and Jonah Ellis might be better than Shaq and Shane. But I think there's obviously like layers to it, because Shaq well earned his contract, rightfully earned his contract of getting paid with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Shane Ray really didn't amount to much once he left the Denver Broncos. So I think that's the side of it, is like if you look at it where it's Shaq and then on top of that someone else gets the payday, that's when I think you can confidently say that the depth of that was better.
By the way, I was just looking through the coaching staff on the website, and I just have to shout out Jamar Kane, who's the defensive line coach, who's, I mean, the fact that he hasn't been getting looks just off of his pure just resume of the pass rush the past couple years. I mean, he should be getting more love. But did you guys know that Willie Snead is the offensive quality control coach for the Broncos?
Yeah,
I did.
Well, I mean, I must be living on the rock because, geez.
that's cool.
Yeah. But it's another
He's been
reason
here
why.
for, I think, at least a year, right?
No,
Yeah.
he was actually brought in. He was actually brought in just this year,
I thought
So
it was
it-
last year. Okay, maybe not.
or maybe he was like late, like a very late addition. But it goes to show you why I actually think that Ronald Curry, and then obviously probably factor in this, we might actually see a little bit of an improvement with some of those the wide receiver room in general.
By the way, I do remember them hiring him now. I just completely forgot about it.
Okay, so you just clearly showed your old age.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my old age of 24.
Yeah. Continuing the
Okay,
trend and
he joined in March. I was wrong. I definitely thought he was around longer than that.
continuing the trend of even players who performed at such a high level. Let's get to that secondary. You want to talk about two players. Take away from the fact that we talk about players who really needed it the most for a pure confidence booster, right? Evan Ingram needed that kind of game from a pure confidence boost kind of game, and he played really well. Jade Barron needed that game for a pure confidence booster going into the next game, but obviously going into the regular season having that kind of game. Riley Moss needed that game to really kind of, get his confidence up, and specifically those turnovers. And how fitting is it that we are turning the ball over, and the two turnovers of people who were there at the right time and even made a incredible play on the ball in terms of Riley, as much as it was a bad throw, even though I think it was tipped. It was Riley Moss and Jade Barron.
Yep.
I think Barron had an opportunity to another pick, but he dropped it. But yeah, no, I definitely think that was a great game for both of them. Love to see that from Riley Moss. I think he's going to earn a lot of money after this year, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be in Denver. So rack up those picks while you're here, boy. Please get us back to elite defense levels, because I do think that we're due for some positive regression in the turnover department.
You never know.
Shade Barron, also having, as much as I don't know if I would necessarily call this redemption for the pick six that never happened against the Chiefs, even though it absolutely happened, and they just
I was not dawning on me
find a way to not count, like let it count, because it's Patrick Mahomes and he can't make any mistakes ever. But I'm glad to see him make that play.
Well, and again, everybody talks about, the fact of, the interception and everything, but we really got a chance to see his high intelligence at play there in that game. And one of the things that for, as much as, he maybe we're trying to figure out like what's the best role for him, one of the best things that we loved about him, even when he was getting opportunities, Brandon, was we got a chance to see how sure-handed of a tackler he really is. There was a moment in that game where, the running back, if he, stiff arms him maybe even another half second more, he probably would have created another lane. But Barron is still there, standing in front of him, and that might have been the same drive the pick six happened. But you really got a chance to see, him really stand in front, and for being just a tick under 6 feet, and he really plays big, and when it comes to some of those tackles.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it takes me a minute to pee.
I don't think that's that.
Calling me out. Jeez. But on the topic of on the topic of Riley Moss and Jade Barron, by the way, his speed on that interception, it was only reached by 3 players all of last season. So he has a unique type of speed to him, which was more than great to see. Because,
can you find it? Sorry, can you find his speed on the other pick six that didn't count?
The one against Kansas City?
Yeah.
I don't think they had it.
You don't think you can? Oh, no.
Because it wasn't official, yeah. Which is unfortunate because it should have counted. But imagine your first career pick is a pick six and it's against Mahomes. Would have been awesome.
I mean, your first career pick for Pat Surtain came off Kirk Cousins in a preseason game. There was wasn't that a pick six, if I'm not mistaken?
It was a pick six in Minnesota. I remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was so great to see Jade Barron do that. I mean, I've been skeptical, not of him as the player, just of like him just needing to get more opportunities. I haven't questioned him as a player. It's just he just needs to get those opportunities because he was a first round pick, and we want to see it out of him. And then also seeing Riley Moss get that interception. I mean, we all know that the fan base is torn. I mean, you will get 50% of them that love him, 50% of them that hates him for no apparent reason. It is just, it's either you're in or out on Riley Moss. There's no in between, and I'm glad that he got that interception. And I think he's primed for a big year, and he is for sure going to get a payday. Don't know if it's going to be in Denver, but wherever it's at, he is going to get paid, and rightfully so, at least in my opinion.
Yeah. One thing on Barron, I know I've been pretty skeptical, I would say, maybe on him and that pick. And I just want to highlight, I don't think it has anything to do with him as a player. Like, he's incredibly talented. My issue with it comes from the fact that that's already an absolutely loaded room. And how are you going to get him on the field? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, if anything, he's just proven that more to be the case after this game. Like, you have to find a way to let this man play.
Yeah.
And maybe it's going to be after the season, after Riley Moss gets a bag somewhere else, and we're going to have someone that can step into that role. Unfortunately, it's going to be in his third season, and then he's going to need to get paid soon. But you got to find some way to get him out there for the investment that you put in him.
Well, and in fairness,
in other places that would have been on the field sooner.
and in fairness to something that had been a long history of, to what Paul was mentioning in the chat, like for as much as a lot of people were talking about, like we need a tight end equalizer. There we go. I almost said
There we go.
it was like blending two
Tongue
words.
twister.
It was blending two words. In equalizer, he was good against tight ends last year. Like he was really good against tight ends last year, and so I think that in the initials, side of it, like, I mean, you at least have that to go along with the fact that you can, use him in other areas. And I will say that also shows you how big Barron can play, for being just a tick under 6 feet, and maybe right at 200 pounds. I mean, he's got pretty impressive size for him to be able to maintain that and go up against tight ends like Jake Ferguson, and obviously in the division, guys like Travis Kelce and Brock Bowers. So it's just, and it's another thing of just from the tight end perspective. Not saying that there won't be matchups of guys like Brock Bowers on a PS2 at times, or stuff like that. But it's nice that you can at least save reps for those types of guys that you don't need them. You can actually just utilize a Barron at times on some certain situations for his coverage on tight ends.
Yeah, he was surprisingly effective at that last year.
Now, some of the other stuff and some of the other things that really stood out in terms of, some of those positives, were safety that maybe the three of us have been high on for quite some time. And, and I will say, to kind of tee it all up, he made one of the most impressive plays of the entire preseason game that I can recall. I don't think many people, for as much as Zachariah Branch, kind of was not drafted all that high, I was surprised. It almost made it seem like it was a miscommunication, by maybe some of the defenders, or there was one or two or so players that were kind of, missing something when it came to Zachariah Branch. Because if J.L. Skinner does not make that tackle, that is either a first down or a touchdown for Branch. And Skinner shot out of a cannon to make that play. And it's a very weird comparison, but one of my favorite plays over the course of the 2015 season was a play that Chris Harris made on that 4th and 2 to Julian Edelman, where they were rolling Edelman out, and Brady hit Edelman, and Chris Harris Jr. goes to show his IQ, smartly recognized that, and tackled Edelman to force that 4th down stop, if you will. And I think that was in the AFC Championship game, but like it was almost like that exact same kind of thing, like that same kind of situation where Skinner immediately knew where that ball was going, and just ran from the opposite side of the field to go tackle Zachariah Branch.
Man, Zachariah Branch, by the way, he moves very similar to his running back there in Atlanta, Bijan. I mean,
he's fun. I think I understand why some people are underselling him a little bit as a prospect, but when you see him move, it's nice.
Yeah. No, J.L. Skinner had some nice plays. I definitely think that he is someone that I would like to see maybe get a little bit more opportunity. But he is making me feel a little bit better about, again, the depth at safety, especially with recent moves we've made there. But I do think he showed that physicality that he's known for. I believe correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he did also have a dropped interception. But he made some nice plays.
Yeah, he had one where he could have had it.
Yeah.
And I think
Hit
actually
him right in
Sean,
the hands.
yeah, I think Sean had talked about it after the presser because I think he was wearing sleeves and he's not a big sleeves guy for DBs and wide receivers because
Justin talked about that too.
yeah, it was kind of funny, but listen, I've been a big JL Skinner guy. I'm glad that he shows up when his opportunity is called. Again, he's rightfully gonna be behind Hufanga and Brandon Jones, but
Maybe even Rapp.
And now that we have Taylor Rapp, it's gonna be a little bit more harder because Rapp, does have that veteran presence and stuff like that. But whenever I do believe the opportunity is there for JL Skinner, I think he will make the most out of it.
So let's talk about that. The Broncos in that corresponding move, they made a move to sign Taylor Rapp, and we were in talking with Anthony last week and stuff like that. We were kind of getting the impression signing was imminent, that they were going to end up signing Taylor Rapp. He's in the fold now. So now I have to ask, and it's a tricky one because and I brought up Keidron Smith earlier. It's the only other year that I know of where the Broncos held 6 safeties, and that was just because of the fact that Keidron had such a great preseason. They could not afford to lose him, on that roster spot. And ironically enough, he plays for the Falcons right now. But how many safeties do they keep? Because obviously there was an All-Pro, or was it a Pro Bowler? A Pro Bowler in Devon Key for special teams, right? And JL Skinner is also good on special teams, right? So that's 2 after Taylor Rapp. So where exactly are we kind of, lining up here? Oh, by the way, too, Brandon, before I get to you, I find it very funny now. The 2 outside free agents that the Broncos will now have signed are both safeties.
Yep. Tyson Anderson and now Taylor Rapp.
Anderson seems to be more like a special teams signing than anything, just because he's a dog on special teams. But it is kind of.
Is he though? Because that's what
I think he may be on his way out.
That's what they said about.
Let me say allegedly.
Yeah. I was gonna say because that's what they said about JT Gray. That's what they said about Sam Franklin.
Oh,
all I know is when he left, the Bengals fans were pissed, and that was the reason. Is because
that is true. I do remember the outrage. I mean, Cincinnati fans were pissed.
Yeah. Who knows if he's an easy cut? He might go back.
That's one of the only times I've seen people be pissed about a special teams player getting cut.
Yeah.
So that says something. I love the Taylor Rapp signing.
And actually, Taylor Rapp is kind of the same thing as Anderson. Like no. I meant like if you.
I mean, he's played like 70 games at safety.
No, but like you read some of the comments from Bills fans, they actually really liked him a lot at safety. He was just.
Oh yeah.
He was just not healthy at all.
No, I mean specifically a special teams player. In Tyson Anderson. But no, I do love the Taylor Rapp signing. He absolutely needed some veteran depth at safety, and that's exactly what he brings. So that's the perfect signing to me. Makes me feel a lot better about, again, the safety room in addition to what JL Skinner has shown. Yeah, I do think it might come down to special teams play between Skinner and Anderson in that room. So we'll see. But Taylor Rapp,
so was it 5 safeties?
Was, to me, a much-needed addition.
I don't know about 5 safeties. That's quite a lot for the safety room.
Especially if you're keeping 5 linebackers, you're probably only keeping 4 safeties.
Yeah. I think you can get away with one of them being on the practice squad and then doing a game day elevation.
Yeah.
So is that Miles Scott on the practice squad?
Could be.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I'm thinking through. I think at the very least 5 because they can't get rid of Devon Key. And it seems for as much as it is talked about, J.L. Skinner is loved by that, by that team and even Sean. And for even him as, being used in special teams. Man, so what is that? That's 5 right there. So it seems like Tyson Anderson, to what Landon was saying, might be the Sam Franklin situation where it's just he's cut before week 1, and he's one of those players that's just is going to get cut, down in terms of the roster cut day.
Well, do they view Scott as a safety, or do they put him
Wide receiver,
or just a DB?
I'm joking because when he committed to Illinois, at wide receiver.
No, right, yeah.
He's just as fast as the other Illinois guy,
They have ties. They have connections.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up going to the practice squad and he was a 7th-round pick, I think.
I mean, goes to show you because it was, 3 7th-round picks? So who do you trust more in terms of trying to pass through waivers? Miles Scott? Obviously, we know Red Murdoch, is going to be a tough one. And then Dallin Bentley, right? And I think I'd probably am more confident in the situation than you might have Miles Scott pass through than Dallin Bentley.
Yeah.
Easily.
Any other, certain situations? And obviously we went kind of like a whole about an hour and a half, but like, is there any players, because like I think that's the thing for me is like I thought there were some players who underperformed or didn't play all that well, but it was not a lot. Like it was not a lot. There were far more positives from that kind of game in terms of the Atlanta Falcons. So is there something as far as for you guys that maybe is there? It's a hard question to ask because like it does feel like a preseason statement in a way, because the way I would say it, I like and I love the fact that we had a game like that, right? But I hate the fact we had a game like that because it was the first game since the AFC Championship game, and a game like that with the depth that we have and you're showing and playing like that, it's a very interesting situation because I can see a lot of fans now seeing a game like that and being like, "Oh, we're at 12-5. Oh yeah, I'm moving them up now. I'm going 13-4, 14-3, 15-2 after a game like that." I can very much see that. So it's just
in the preseason. I don't know if I would go that far. I don't think
due to some of the fan bases, I wouldn't be surprised if there's already some of that logic.
If that was week 1, different story. I mean, I've already talked about who I think I did play the best. So Jordan, go for it.
I mean, in terms of who played the best, I mean,
or didn't play the best.
Well, didn't play the best.
Didn't
play the best. I mean, I wouldn't say didn't play the best. I would like to see more opportunities go towards Justin Jolie's way. Especially now with our game tomorrow against the Packers. I want to see him featured a little bit more. I'm still going to be very high on him and his potential. But for me, it's not more so just disappointment, it's just more opportunities. So some of those players that didn't get that in the Falcons game, hopefully they get that in the Packers game. Whether it's after the ones go and stuff like that. But yeah, I would like to see someone like a Justin Jolie get their opportunities against the Packers.
Yeah. Obviously, as we're kind of winding down just a little bit, we didn't get a chance to preview the Packers, and I don't think we need to talk too much about it. In a sense, just more of like what we want to see in terms of this game. So Brandon, we'll kind of send that off to you. But like, what are you most excited to see? Obviously, Bo Nix will play.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, we didn't hear it, but I'm assuming Jalen Waddle will play.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know if Waddle should play, to be honest with you. But if we do see Bo and Waddle, that's like easily number one, easily with a bullet. Other than that, I want to see. Do we use? Well, let me put it this way: I want to see more tight end usage. Whoever it is, I want to see consistent, good tight end play. Whether that's Evan Ingram, whether that's Jolie, Ethan Bentley, just give me something in the tight end room.
And
By the
I'm going
way,
to go quite the opposite of Brandon right now and just say if Jalen Waddle does play, if it's a passing attempt, the target better be going to Jalen Waddle. So if it's 8 passes for Bo Nix, I want 8 targets for Jalen Waddle.
Man, I hope he's not out there for 8 plays. That's not necessary.
By the way, Brandon, nice jersey wall.
Just like me, Brandon.
Yeah, just like you.
Yeah. Totally the same.
What's the one from the interview? Same, but different.
Yeah.
So I will say this: if Waddle plays,
Oh, man.
and they're in the red zone,
Just give him the ball.
well, no. Well, yes, but fan service. Give us fan service. If you score a touchdown, Jalen Waddle, we realize that this is your first indoctrination of a Broncos home game. Fan service. If you score a touchdown, do the Waddle. I know it's preseason, but do the Waddle. And for Bo, Sean is so bizarre at times when it comes to, like, because he said that I want to have them play 10 to 15 plays in preseason 1, right?
And it goes over by
And
a lot.
it goes very much over than that. So
They play a quarter.
yeah. So I would love to see Bo only play a series, depending on what that series looks like, obviously. We should preface it that way, whatever the series looks like. But what I'm expecting is I'm actually expecting him to go out and play there for like a quarter.
First play, 60-yard touchdown pass to Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, just like training camp, right? Like just
Go to
like
the bench.
training camp. If that happens, there might be some certain torquing going on in the stream for mainly Broncos. And
I really do hope that crowd tomorrow night, if Waddle plays, they show out for him and they really deck that place out for him. I know it's preseason and stuff like that, but
if I'm not mistaken, they did. They did when the Packers were doing a joint practice. I think it was Bo's year that he was officially announced as starter, his rookie year. They demolished the Packers in that joint practice, if I'm not mistaken.
and we did beat them last year.
So, any other ones like that you're kind of excited to see a little bit, or see a little bit of some improvement off of? I will kind of take the low-hanging fruit, and I will say Red Murdoch. Give us a bit of an encore. You know, like give us a little bit of an encore of what we saw there for for that. I mean, because that was. Let me just end it this way, because obviously I see the Texans game going on here, and they're in the red zone right now. Did Red Murdoch not give a lot of optimism for what we should have had with Dre Greenlaw to what Anthony was talking about last week? So, I mean, I'm excited to see Red Murdoch and what we can be able to do with, possibly him with a. So I don't know.
I just want to see RJ Harvey improvement. If he comes out and doesn't play too many snaps, but he looks like he's making progress in how he's playing and seeing the field and running specifically between the tackles, I'll be pretty happy. I don't want or expect to see him play much, but that would be nice to see.
And I want to see number 17.
Yeah. It is. It feels like very obvious. Yes, but yeah. All right. Any other final thoughts though, as we're talking about the game and stuff like that? That maybe we didn't get a chance to talk about the Falcons game, or that we didn't get a chance to preview when it came to some of the Packers though. Are you guys pretty much all set and ready?
Go Broncos.
I mean, I'm good on that end. I mean, I would just say, Broncos 30, Packers 10.
Joe Coleman touchdown. Hell yeah.
This will be Boggins if Jonah Coleman even gets a touchdown.
A curse all episode. Fair warning. Yeah.
Shout out, Maddie.
Shout out, Maddie. Free eats for something like that. All right. Well, again, make sure that you guys follow the boys, support the boys. Follow Jordan at Jordan2Lopez. Follow Brandon at Brandon Miller PO, and also follow myself at Cameron Parker PO. If you guys are going to the game tonight, if you guys are going to the game tomorrow night, I will be there. So if you guys are fans of the Mainly Broncos podcast, feel free to say hi and give us a shout out, if you will, while we're there. So I will be at 4 other games too, come the regular season. So thank you guys for hopping in. And as always, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button over here on the MHRT Network page and the Mainly Broncos YouTube page. So thank you guys for everybody that was hopping in. Hell has frozen over, and we have Broncos football back again.
Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!